You hear about the mighty Qin Dynasty, first to unify China, the empire that built walls stretching thousands of miles, soldiers who conquered kingdoms like clockwork. But there's a field in Hebei where that machine shattered, where 50,000 desperate men broke 500,000, where a 25-year-old commander sank his own boats and smashed his cooking pots to tell his troops one thing: win or die. How does an army outnumbered 6-1 demolish the most professional military force in the known world? What kind of rage drives a man to murder Xiang Yu in his own tent, seize command through blood, then charge straight into certain death? The answer sits in mass graves at Yima, in chronicles written by Sima Qian 90 years later. In Railway Workers who dug up 200,000 skeletons in 1912, this is Julu, 207 BCE, the battle that ended the Qin Dynasty before winter came. If you value documented ancient Chinese warfare and Chuhan history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian d'Aumespin, completed around 94 BCE and translated by Burton Watson in 1961 for Columbia University Press, plus the detailed historical analysis from Man Yongying's Military Chronicles of the period published in 2003 by the Chinese History Society. Now back to the information. The Qin state conquered the last of the 6 warring kingdoms in 221 BCE under Yingzheng, who took the title First Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the man who standardized writing, currency, measurements, who burned books and buried scholars alive to enforce unity. When he died in 210 BCE, his second son Hu Hai took the throne as Qin Shi. Weak, controlled by the eunuch Zhao Gao, the empire cracked. In 209 BCE, 2 men named Chen Sheng and Wu Guang were marching to their posts when rain flooded the roads. Qin law said, arrive late to government work, die. They chose rebellion instead, the Zexiang uprising. Chen Sheng declared himself king. Wu Guang followed. They had no chance against professional Qin armies. Chen Sheng died from betrayal by his own guard. Wu Guang fell to infighting, but their spark caught dry tinder. Across northern and eastern China, the old kingdoms rose from their graves. Chu, Zhao, Yan, Qi. Men who remembered when their families ruled before Qin came. Zhang Han was the man Qin sent to crush them, minister steward at the imperial court. He told Qin Shi to grant amnesty to the convicts building the first emperor's tomb, arm them, send them to war. The emperor agreed. Zhang Han marched with an army scraped from prisoners and turned them into soldiers. In the 9th lunar month of 208 BCE, Zhang Han met the Chu forces at Dingtao. Their commander was Xiang Liang, uncle to Xiang Yu. Zhang Han killed him, crushed the Chu army. Then he turned north, crossed the Yellow River, targeted Zhao Xie, the revived king of Zhao. Zhao forces retreated from their capital Handan. Zhang Han ordered his deputies Wang Li and Shejin to besiege the Zhao king and his premier Zhang in the city of Julu, present-day Pingshan County in Xingtai, Hebei. Wang Li commanded around 200,000 men pressing the siege. Zhang Han stationed himself at Jiwan to the south with another 200,000 to 300,000 troops, built a fortified supply corridor. The math was brutal. 500,000 Qin soldiers, the best equipped and experienced troops from the dynasty that unified China through military perfection. Zhao Xie was starving inside Julu. Zhao Xie sent messengers begging for help. King Huai II of Chu, a puppet king, a figurehead the rebels propped up for legitimacy, dispatched 2 armies in response. The first under Song Yi, with Xiang Yu as second in command, would march north to relieve Julu. The second under Liu Bang would strike west at Guanzhong, the Qin heartland where Xianyang sat. King Huai made a promise. Whoever reached Guanzhong first would become its king. That promise would fracture China for 5 years after Qin fell. Song Yi marched his 50,000 Chu troops north. Other rebel states sent forces, 2, Qi from the east, Yan from the northeast, scattered Zhao units under Chen Yu from the northwest. According to Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian and Military Historian Man Yongying's analysis, the combined rebel alliance gathered around 80,000 troops total before Chu arrived. They camped at separate positions around Julu, never unified command. Most of the commanders were survivors who'd hidden during Qin rule. Farmers turned rebels like Ying Bu, sons of minor officials like Zhao Zi himself. Few had real military experience. They watched the Qin siege from a distance and did nothing. Probed occasionally, never committed. The Qin army was death itself. 500,000 men who'd conquered the known Chinese world. Everyone there probably had a dead relative killed by that machine. Fear froze them. Song Yi reached Anyang in the 12th lunar month of 208 BCE, some distance from Julu where Zhao forces had retreated. He ordered his troops to make camp. Wait, Let Qin and Zhao wear each other out. Xiang Yu disagreed, loudly. His uncle Xiang Liang had died at Dingtao 3 months earlier. Zhang Han killed him. Xiang Yu wanted Zhang Han's blood, wanted to fight. Song Yi refused. Called Xiang Yu a foolhardy man seeking fame. Gave an order, anyone showing barbaric, defiant behavior that violates commands will be executed. So Song Yi camped at Anyang for 46 days. His soldiers froze in rain, starved. Song Yi threw a lavish banquet at Wujin, east of present-day Dongping County in Shandong, to send off his son, Song Xiang, to the state of Qi. While his men suffered, on the morning of the 47th day, Xiang Yu burst into Song Yi's tent, took him by surprise, killed him, announced to the army that Song Yi was plotting with Qi against Chu, that he'd received secret orders from King Huai to execute the traitor. The other generals were already afraid of Xiang Yu. A man who stood over 6 feet tall, possessed double pupils like the mythical Emperor Shun, could lift a ding cauldron. They let him become acting commander. Xiang Yu sent a messenger to King Huai. The puppet king had no choice. Retroactively approved the command, Xiang Yu sent a vanguard immediately. 20,000 men under Yingbu and Zhongli Mo crossed the Yellow River, reinforced the starving forces at Julu, won a few skirmishes against Wang Li's siege troops. In the 12th month of 208 BCE, Xiang Yu followed with his remaining 30,000 soldiers. By the time he arrived, the Zhao forces inside Julu were nearly broken. Starved to the edge of surrender, Wang Li had them locked down. Zhang Han's supply corridor kept Wang's siege army fed. The other rebel armies, Qi, Yan, the scattered Zhao units sat in their camps and watched, waited, still afraid. Xiang Yu understood something the others didn't. Speed, shock. The only way to crack Qin's numerical advantage was to hit them so hard and fast they couldn't organize their numbers. He ordered his men to carry 3 days of supplies, destroy the rest, smash the cauldrons, sink the boats, no retreat possible, win or die. The Chinese idiom born from this moment is pofu chenzhou, breaking cauldrons and sinking boats. The English equivalent is crossing the Rubicon. Point of no return. His soldiers knew the math, knew they had to defeat the Qin army within 3 days and seize their supplies or perish. Fear turned to something sharper. Desperation breeds ferocity. Xiang Yu launched his assault. His troops fought with the intensity Sima Qian recorded as one Chu soldier taking on 10 Qin foes, 9 consecutive engagements. Wang Li's supply lines snapped. The Qin army suffered over 100,000 casualties in the initial fighting. The Qin general Su Jiao died in action. Wang Li was captured. Shi Jin refused to surrender, set himself on fire, committed suicide rather than return to Qianyang and face execution from Zhao Gao's paranoid regime. Zhang Han tried to regroup, retreated from Julu to Jiwan, planning to hold until reinforcements arrived from the capital. But the capital had turned on him. Zhang Han sent his deputy Sima Xin to Xianyang requesting reinforcements and supplies. Zhao Gao controlled the Qin government now, the eunuch who'd helped place Qin Shi on the throne. Zhao Gao was jealous of Zhang Han's military success, afraid Zhang would replace him at court. He deceived Qin Shi, falsely accused Zhang Han of deliberate military failure, conspiracy with rebels. The emperor dismissed Zhang's request. Zhao Gao sent assassins after Sima Xin on his return journey. Sima escaped, raced back to Zhang Han, reported that the Qin government had fallen under Zhao Gao's control, that Zhang Han would be executed for his failure if he returned. The other rebel armies finally moved. After watching Xiang Yu demolish Wang Li's siege force, the commanders realized this 25-year-old had done what none of them dared attempt. They came to Xiang Yu's camp. When he received them, they sank to their knees, couldn't look up at him. Ashamed they hadn't fought. Terrified of the man who just destroyed 200,000 Qin troops, they declared him commander-in-chief over the united rebel forces. Xiang Yu's army swelled to approximately 130,000 soldiers. Zhang Han held out for months. Despite his numerical advantage being eroded, he fought a defensive campaign that Sima Qian acknowledges was tactically brilliant. Xiang Yu pressed him. The Qin army withdrew multiple times, but Zhang Han was running out of options. By summer 207 BCE, Zhang Han surrendered. Brought 200,000 Qin soldiers with him. Xiang Yu's combined forces reached 600,000 men, the largest army in China, but Xiang Yu didn't trust the surrendered Qin troops, saw them as disloyal, a liability that would strain food supplies. A potential mutiny waiting to happen. In the 11th lunar month of 207 BCE, Xiang Yu led his army to the city of Xinan, present-day Yima in Henan province, made camp, then gave an order. The 200,000 surrendered Qin soldiers were to be executed, buried alive. All of them, south of Xinan. The massacre happened. Xiang Yu spared 3 men, Zhang Han, Sima Xin, and Dong Yi. The generals. He would later make Zhang Han king of Yong, Sima Xin king of Sai, Dongyi king of Dai when he carved the fallen Qin Empire into 18 kingdoms. But their soldiers died in pits. In 1912, workers constructing the Longhai Railway at Yima unearthed massive deposits of human remains, thousands upon thousands of skeletons. The site became known as the Chu Pits. Physical evidence of Xiang Yu's cruelty recorded in Sima Qian's chronicles and confirmed by modern archaeology. 200,000 men who surrendered expecting mercy got mass graves instead. After Julu, Xiang Yu prepared to invade Guangzhong, the Qin heartland, but Liu Bang moved faster. While Xiang Yu fought Zhang Han, Liu Bang led his army west. In the winter of 207 BCE, the last Qin ruler Zi Ying surrendered to Liu Bang in Shanyang. The Qin Dynasty ended, 15 years after unifying China. When Xiang Yu reached Hanggu Pass, the eastern gateway to Guangzhong, he found Liu Bang's troops already occupying it. Liu had arrived first. By King Huai's promise, Liu Bang should become king of Guangzhong. Xiang Yu had 400,000 soldiers after absorbing the other rebel armies. Liu Bang had maybe 100,000. Xiang Yu was furious. Fan Zeng, Xiang Yu's advisor, suggested inviting Liu Bang to a feast and killing him there. The feast at Honggate, one of the most famous events in Chinese history, recorded in chronicles, dramatized in Beijing opera. Xiang Yu's uncle, Xiangbo, intervened. Convinced Xiang Yu not to kill Liu Bang. Liu Bang escaped during the banquet, pretended he needed to use the restroom, fled. That decision cost Xiang Yu everything. Liu Bang survived, regrouped. The Chuan contention began, 5 years of war between 206 and 202 BCE. Xiang Yu controlled more territory, had the larger army. But Liu Bang was smarter, recruited better generals like Han Xin, won the loyalty of common people by forbidding his troops from looting cities, sparing citizens, building trust. Xiang Yu terrified cities. His reputation for massacring entire populations, even after they surrendered, meant cities fought to the death rather than open their gates. They knew surrender meant execution anyway. By 203 BCE, Liu Bang had the advantage. His general Han Xin defeated Chu forces in every northern battle. Peng Yue raided Xiang Yu's supply lines from behind. Xiang Yu captured Liu Bang's father after a year-long siege, threatened to boil him alive if Liu didn't surrender. Liu Bang offered to send his father's bones to him when he died, cold. The two sides signed a treaty, divided China along the Hong Canal. Xiang Yu withdrew his forces east. Liu Bang broke the treaty immediately, attacked western Chu from 3 directions with Han Xin and Peng Yue. Trapped Xiang Yu's army at Gaixia in 202 BCE, ran them low on supplies, ordered his troops to sing Chu folk songs at night, made it sound like Xiang Yu's homeland had already fallen. Psychological warfare. Xiang Yu's soldiers deserted. His concubine Lady Yu committed suicide. Xiang Yu fled with 800 cavalry. Liu Bang's forces pursued. Xiang Yu fought multiple engagements, killed hundreds, reduced to 28 men by the time he reached the Wu River. The ferryman offered to take him across, escape, rebuild. Xiang Yu refused. Said he couldn't face the elders of Jiangdong after losing, gave his horse to the ferryman, fought one final time, killed dozens more, then drew his sword and cut his own throat. Around 30 years old, Liu Bang became Emperor Gaozu. Founded the Han Dynasty that would rule for 4 centuries, held a grand funeral for Xiang Yu, honored him as Duke of Lu, spared his relatives. His uncle Xiangbo, who'd saved Liu Bang's life at Honggate, even received a marquis title, Sima Qian. Writing his records of the grand historian around 94 BCE, described Xiang Yu as someone who boasted about achievements and thought highly of himself. Preferred, depending on personal abilities over learning from others, failed to recognize his own shortcomings, refused to correct mistakes. Sima Qian found it ridiculous that Xiang Yu blamed heaven for his downfall instead of his own failures. The historian noted Xiang Yu's cruelty as his greatest weakness, the massacres that made cities resist harder, the 200,000 at Xinan, the civilians killed after sieges. But Sima also acknowledged what happened at Julu, how a 25-year-old commander with 50,000 troops demolished 500,000 Qin soldiers, how he turned fear into fury by destroying his own supplies and boats, how he fought 9 engagements and shattered the military machine that had conquered China, how every other rebel commander knelt before him afterward, unable to look up. Han Xin, who served Liu Bang and fought against Xiang Yu, said Xiang Yu was a fierce warrior when facing stronger rivals, but soft-hearted with weaker ones. The historian's judgment is harsher. Xiang Yu as an example of what not to do. Rule with love, not fear. Lead with strategy, not just strength. But the battle itself stands separate from the man's failures. Julu changed Chinese history. Without Julu, Qin doesn't fall in 207 BCE. Zhang Han doesn't surrender. The dynasty might stabilize, hold another decade. 2. Instead, the battle destroyed the bulk of Qin's military power in one winter. Wang Li captured, Shi Jin dead by fire, Su Jiao killed in action, over 100,000 casualties in 9 engagements, another 200,000 surrendered, then executed. Zhang Han's surrender delivered the final blow. When Ziying surrendered to Liu Bang months later, he had no army left to fight with. The numbers matter. 50,000 Chu troops initially, 20,000 sent ahead under Ying Bu and Zhong Limo, 30,000 following with Xiang Yu, against 200,000 under Wang Li besieging Julu, another 200,000 to 300,000 under Zhang Han holding Jiuan. The sources differ slightly on Zhang Han's exact force. Some chronicles say 200,000, others say 300,000. The conservative estimate puts total Qin forces at 400,000, the higher estimate at 500,000. Either way, Xiang Yu was outnumbered at least 6-1 when he attacked. After the battle, other rebel armies joined him, swelled his forces to 130,000. Then, Zhang Han's surrender added 200,000 more before the Jin massacre. The final rebel coalition that faced no organized Qin resistance reached 400,000 by winter, 207 BCE. The strategic position explains why the numbers alone didn't save Qin. Julu sat in defensible terrain. Mountains to the west, where Qin supplies arrived easily, rivers to the south, including the Yellow River preventing easy crossings. Attackers funneled into narrow approaches. Perfect for a smaller force defending. Terrible for a smaller force attacking. But Xiang Yu didn't care about terrain disadvantages. He understood timing. Wang Li's siege troops had been locked around Julu for months. Supply lines stretched. When Xiang Yu hit Wang Li's force hard and fast, he disrupted those supply lines immediately. 9 consecutive engagements without pause. No time for Wang Li to reorganize, no time for Zhang Han to effectively reinforce from Jiuan. Speed collapsed Qin's numerical advantage into tactical confusion. The breaking of the cauldrons and sinking of the boats was psychological warfare turned inward. Xiang Yu eliminated his own men's option to retreat. 3 days of supplies. After that, they either won and took Qin supplies, or they starved. That level of desperation creates intensity, Sima Qian captured as 1 against 10. Modern military historians note this tactic works when soldiers are already highly motivated. Xiang Yu's troops wanted revenge for Xiang Liang's death at Dingtao, wanted to avenge 3 months of Qin victories, wanted to prove themselves after Song Yi's 46 days of inaction. Xiang Yu gave them a target and removed their safety net. They became weapons. The other rebel commanders, paralysis makes sense in context. They'd survived Qin rule by staying invisible, by not drawing attention. Risk aversion kept them alive when Zhang Han was crushing Chen Sheng and Wu Guang and Shangliang. Watching Xiang Yu charge into certain death against 500,000 Qin troops seemed like suicide, until it worked. Then their shame turned to fear of the man who'd done what they couldn't imagine attempting. That's why they knelt, couldn't look up. Not just respect, terror. Xiang Yu had demonstrated a capacity for violence and risk that made him unpredictable, dangerous. You don't look directly at something that frightens you that deeply. The surrender negotiations with Zhang Han reveal how badly Qin's political structure had collapsed. Zhang Han fought brilliantly even after Julu. Sima Qian and later historians acknowledge he held Xiang Yu off for months with inferior numbers after losing Wang Li's army. But Zhao Gao's paranoia destroyed any incentive Zhang had to keep fighting. When your own government tries to assassinate your deputy on his way back from requesting supplies, when you know returning means execution regardless of military success, surrender becomes rational. Zhang Han chose to live as a king under Xiang Yu rather than die as a traitor under Zhao Gao. That calculation broke Qin's last field army. Without Zhang Han's 200,000 troops, Qin had nothing left to defend Guanzhong when Liu Bang arrived. The Xinan massacre remains Xiang Yu's darkest moment. 200,000 surrendered soldiers executed, buried alive south of the city. The reasoning Sima Qian records, fear of mutiny, strain on food supplies, makes cold strategic sense. But it destroyed Xiang Yu's ability to win hearts. Cities heard what happened at Xinan, understood surrender meant death, so they fought harder. Held out longer. Cost Xiang Yu time and men he couldn't afford during the Chu-Han contention. Liu Bang's policy of forbidding looting and sparing citizens looked merciful by comparison. Cities opened their gates to Liu Bang, fought to the death against Xiang Yu. The massacre at Xinan cost Xiang Yu the empire more surely than any battle he lost to Liu Bang later. The archaeological evidence from 1912 confirms Sima Qian's account. Railway workers at Yima dug up massive deposits of human skeletal remains. The scale matches 200,000 bodies. The location matches Sima Qian's description. south of Xinan at present-day Yima in Henan province. The Chu pits, physical proof that the massacre chronicled in the records of the Grand Historian actually happened. That Xiang Yu really did order 200,000 men buried alive months after defeating them at Julu. This isn't legend. It's documented in primary sources written 90 years after the event by China's first great historian who had access to Han Dynasty archives and interviewed witnesses. It's confirmed by modern archaeology. The bones don't lie. Julu's military significance extends beyond Qin's fall. The battle demonstrated that overwhelming numerical superiority can be defeated through aggressive tactics, speed, and psychological manipulation. Xiang Yu eliminated his own escape routes to force his soldiers into desperation, attacked in 9 consecutive engagements to prevent enemy reorganization, targeted supply lines to amplify chaos. These tactics appear throughout military history. Burn your own bridges, make retreat impossible, force your troops to win or die. It works when soldiers are motivated and leadership is decisive. It fails when morale is already broken. Xiang Yu had motivated troops. Song Yi had wasted 46 days. The men were cold, hungry, angry. Xiang Yu aimed them at the enemy and removed the break. The battle also shows how political collapse destroys military effectiveness. Zhang Han fought brilliantly. He'd saved Xianyang in 209 BCE, crushed Chensheng and Wuguang, defeated Shangliang at Dingtao, beat multiple rebel armies. But when Zhao Gao controlled the government and turned paranoid, when requesting supplies got your deputy marked for assassination, when military success made you a political target, the best general in China had no reason to keep fighting for a dying dynasty. Zhang Han surrendered, not because Xiang Yu outfought him, but because his own government betrayed him. Qin fell from internal rot as much as external pressure. The long-term outcome shows Julu's place in a larger pattern. Xiang Yu won the great military victory, destroyed Qin's last army, became supreme commander of all rebel forces, divided China into 18 kingdoms with himself as hegemon king of Western Chu, controlled more territory and soldiers than anyone, but lost the Chu-Han contention to Liu Bang within 5 years, died by suicide at the Wu River at around 30 years old. Liu Bang founded the Han Dynasty that lasted 4 centuries. The lesson Confucian historians drew is that strength alone doesn't build empires, that cruelty breeds resistance, that you need strategy, political skill, and the ability to win loyalty, not just battles. Xiang Yu had none of those. He was a warrior. Liu Bang was a ruler. But strip away the moralizing and look at the battlefield. 207 BCE, Julu in present-day Pingshan County, Xingtai, Hebei. 50,000 Chu troops attacking 500,000 Qin soldiers across winter terrain. 9 engagements. Over 100,000 Qin casualties. 3 generals dead or captured. The most professional military machine in the known Chinese world, shattered by a 25-year-old who sank his boats and smashed his pots to tell his men there was no retreat. That's what happened. The consequences. The massacre at Xinan, the feast at Honggate, the 5-year war with Liu Bang, the suicide at Wu River, all flow from that winter at Julu. Without Julu, Qin doesn't fall when it does. Zhang Han doesn't surrender. The timeline changes. Maybe Qin stabilizes. Maybe another rebel wins. But what actually happened is Xiang Yu broke them. Broke them so thoroughly that within months, the dynasty that unified China was a memory. The railway workers at Yima in 1912 weren't looking for a battlefield. They were building infrastructure, digging foundations. Then they hit bone, layer after layer of human remains. Thousands of skeletons, so many that the site could only be one thing, the Chu pits, where Xiang Yu executed 200,000 surrendered Qin soldiers in the 11th lunar month of 207 BCE. 90 years later, Sima Qian wrote it down in the records of the Grand Historian. 2,000 years later, Chinese laborers dug it up. The bones confirmed the chronicle. The massacre happened. The numbers match. The location is exact. History preserved in mass graves and ancient text. That's Julu, the battle, the surrender, the execution. The dynasty that fell because 50,000 desperate men charged 500,000 professionals and won. Because a 25-year-old commander understood that eliminating the option to retreat turns fear into fury. Because the Qin government betrayed its best general and left him no reason to fight. Because cruelty echoes through centuries and gets recorded in bones and books. The workers kept digging. The pits at Xinan were quiet. 200,000 voices silenced. The last field army of the Qin dynasty was gone, buried under Henan earth by the man who broke them at Julu. Xiang Yu stood as the undisputed military master of China. His coalition army, swollen with surrendered troops and allied rebels, numbered 400,000. He was the hegemon king, but he was not the first to reach the heartland. While Xiang Yu was fighting at Julu, breaking Wang Li, forcing Zhang Han's surrender, and committing the massacre at Xinan, The other Chu army had moved, the one led by Liu Bang. Liu Bang did not march west to conquer. He marched to win. He understood what Xiang Yu, the aristocrat warrior, did not, that empires are not held by terror, but by consent, or at least by the illusion of it. As Liu Bang advanced on Guangzhong, the Qin heartland, he forbade his troops from looting. He forbade rape. He forbade random executions. When he reached the gates of Qin cities, he offered terms: surrender and live, join him and be fed. This was not mercy, it was strategy. The Qin homeland, terrified of what rebels would do, found Liu Bang's army preferable to the chaos. In the winter of 207 BCE, Liu Bang arrived at Xianyang, in the capital, the center of the world that Qin Shi Huang had built. The last Qin ruler, Zi Ying, grandson of the first emperor, rode out of the city in a plain carriage drawn by white horses. He wrapped a cord around his neck, the symbol of surrender. He carried the imperial seals and jade insignia. He handed them not to Xiang Yu, the great general, but to Liu Bang, the peasant rebel. Liu Bang accepted. He entered the capital. His advisors urged him to take the palaces, the women, the treasure. Liu Bang refused. He sealed the treasuries. He garrisoned his troops outside the city walls to prevent them from plundering the populace. He declared his only goal was to await the arrival of the true leader, Xiang Yu. When Xiang Yu reached Hangu Pass, the eastern gateway to Guangzhong, he found it blocked. Liu Bang's soldiers held the pass. Xiang Yu's fury was absolute. He had fought the war. He had destroyed the Qin armies. He had lost men, and this peasant had slipped in and taken the prize. His 400,000 troops smashed the defenses at Hangu. Liu Bang, with his 100,000 men, retreated to Bashang, a camp near Xianyang. He was trapped. This is where the war should have ended. 400,000 against 100,000. The greatest warrior of the age against a minor rebel commander. Zhang Yu's chief advisor, Fan Zeng, saw the danger. Fan Zeng was an old man, perhaps 70 years old. He was called the father of strategy. He knew Liu Bang was not just a peasant. He saw the ambition. He saw the discipline of Liu Bang's troops. He saw the dragons and colored clouds that mythology claimed hovered over Liu Bang. He saw a rival for the mandate of heaven. He told Xiang Yu to kill him. This Duke of Pei, he warned, has ambitions to take the whole empire. Attack him now. Do not let him escape. But Xiang Yu hesitated. His uncle, Xiang Bo, had a debt to repay. Years earlier, Liu Bang's chief strategist, Zhang Liang, had saved Xiang Bo's life. Xiang Bo rode to Liu Bang's camp in the dead of night to warn Zhang Liang to flee. Zhang Liang refused to abandon his lord. Instead, he brought Xiang Bo to meet Liu Bang. Liu Bang saw his chance. He poured wine. He flattered Xiang Bo. He called him elder brother. He promised a marriage alliance between their two families. He swore he had no ambition, that he was only holding Guangzhong in trust for Xiang Yu, that he had sealed the treasuries and cataloged them, waiting for the hegemon king to arrive. Xiang Bo, convinced, rode back to Xiang Yu's camp. He relayed Liu Bang's words. He told his nephew that Liu Bang was a loyal subordinate, that attacking a man who had already surrendered the prize would be dishonorable. Xiang Yu listened. His arrogance agreed. Liu Bang was no threat. He canceled the planned assault. Instead, he sent an invitation. Liu Bang was to come to Xiang Yu's camp at Hong Gate the next morning, to explain himself, to apologize. It was a trap. Everyone knew it. Liu Bang knew it. Zhang Liang knew it. They had no choice. To refuse was to declare war. The next morning, Liu Bang rode to Hong Gate with a retinue of less than 100 men. He brought Zhang Liang. He brought Fan Kuai, his brother-in-law, a butcher by trade, a giant of a man who served as his bodyguard. Liu Bang entered Xiang Yu's tent and bowed. He apologized. He repeated the lies he had told Xiang Bo. "I was lucky to enter the pass first," he said. "I have secured it for you. Great king, I have been waiting for you. I never dreamed you would listen to the slander of petty men and believe I would betray you." Xiang Yu's pride was satisfied. "The slander came from your own officer, Cao Wushang," Xiang Yu replied, revealing his source. He invited Liu Bang to sit, to feast, the feast at Hong Gate. Hongmen Yan, an event that would become an idiom in Chinese, meaning a banquet that is actually a trap. They sat. Xiang Yu and Xiang Bo faced east, the seat of honor. Liu Bang faced north, the seat of a subordinate. Fan Zeng, the advisor, sat facing south. Zhang Liang faced west. Fan Zeng was frantic. This was the moment. He kept raising his jade jui, a ritual drinking vessel, signaling to Xiang Yu, "Kill him. Kill him now." 3 times he raised the jade. 3 times Xiang Yu looked away. He drank. He talked. He would not give the order. Fan Zeng. In desperation, Summon Xiang Yu's cousin. Our king is too soft-hearted, Fan Zeng whispered. Go in. Offer to perform a sword dance to entertain them. Find your moment and strike Liu Bang down. If you do not, we will all become his prisoners. Xiang Zhuang entered. He drew his sword. The dance began. Steel flashed in the tent. Xiang Zhuang moved closer and closer to Liu Bang, his intentions obvious. Xiang Bo, the uncle who had promised Liu Bang safety, stood up. He drew his own sword. A dance must have two performers, he announced. He joined the dance. He stayed between his cousin and Liu Bang, using his own body to block every thrust, protecting the man who was his family's mortal enemy. Zhang Liang saw it was hopeless. He slipped out of the tent. He found Fan Kuai waiting outside with the guards. The situation is desperate, Zhang Liang said. Xiang Zhuang is dancing with a sword, and he means to kill our lord. Fan Kuai didn't wait. He grabbed his iron shield and his sword. He shoved the guards aside and burst straight into the tent. He ripped the door curtain apart. He stood at the entrance, his hair bristling, his eyes glaring directly at Xiang Yu. The dance stopped. Xiang Yu, startled by the intrusion, grabbed his spear. Who is this? This is Fan Kuai, Zhang Liang said. His bodyguard. Xiang Yu laughed. He was impressed by the man's courage. A brave warrior. Give him a cup of wine. They brought Fan Kuai a dao of wine, a massive container. Fan Kuai drank it standing up. Give him meat, Xiang Yu ordered. They brought him a raw pig shoulder. Fan Kuai put it on his shield, sliced pieces off with his sword, and ate it. Can you drink more? Xiang Yu asked. Fan Kuai spoke. His voice filled the tent. I am not afraid of death. Why would I refuse wine? The king of Qin had the heart of a tiger and a wolf. He killed countless people. The whole world rebelled. King Huai promised that whoever took Shanyang first would be its king. My lord, the Duke of Pei, did it. But what did he do? He harmed no one. He sealed the palaces and treasuries. He moved his army out of the city to wait for you. He sent generals to guard the pass, only to keep bandits out. He has done great service. He deserves a great reward. Instead, you listen to petty slander. You plan to kill a man of merit. This is the act of a failed dynasty. I fear, great king, you are making a mistake. The tent was silent. Xiang Yu had no answer. He told Fan Kuai to sit. The spell was broken. A short time later, Liu Bang stood. I need to use the latrine, he said. He left the tent. Fan Kuai and Zhang Liang followed. Once outside, Liu Bang grabbed Fan Kuai. We are leaving, now. But we have not said goodbye, Zhang Liang protested. It is too dangerous, Liu Bang said. They are the carving knife. We are the fish and meat. He mounted his horse. Fan Kuai, Zhang Liang, and a handful of his closest guards fled the camp, riding hard back to Bashang. He left Zhang Liang behind to offer gifts. A pair of white jade discs for Xiang Yu. A pair of jade wine cups for Fan Zeng. When Zhang Liang re-entered the tent and presented the gifts, Fan Zeng knew what had happened. He accepted the wine cups. He drew his sword. He smashed them to pieces on the floor. Aye! He shouted, his voice thick with disgust. This boy is not worth scheming with. The one who will surely snatch the empire from King Xiang is the Duke of Pei. We will all be his captives. Xiang Yu had failed. He let his only rival slip through his fingers. He had won the battle at Julu, but he had just lost the war at Hong Gate. That afternoon, Xiang Yu ordered the execution of Cao Wushang, the man who had slandered Liu Bang. Then he led his army into Shanyang. He did what Liu Bang had refused to do. He broke the seals. He took the treasure. He seized the women. And then, in a fit of rage and vengeance for his family's homeland of Chu, he burned it. He burned Xianyang. He burned the Yipang Palace. A complex so vast its fires, Sima Qian wrote, were visible for months. He dug up the first emperor's tomb. He massacred the population that Liu Bang had spared. He carved the empire into 18 kingdoms. He made himself hegemon king of Western Chu. He made the surrendered Qin generals, Zhang Han, Sima Xin, and Dong Yi, the three kings of the Qin heartland, a buffer between him and Liu Bang. And Liu Bang, he broke the promise of King Huai. He did not make Liu Bang king of Guangzhong. He banished him. He sent him to the most remote, poorest, most inescapable territory he could find, the mountainous, fever-ridden backwater of Hanzhong, a prison. Xiang Yu was supreme. He had the title. He had the army. He had the power. And he had just made the single greatest mistake of his life. He had spared the one man who would, in 5 years, stand over Xiang Yu's headless body on the banks of the Wu River. The war for China had not ended at Julu. It had just truly begun.